Computers, as opposed to humans, excel at performing repetitive tasks without making mistakes or getting tired of it. Our ability to write programs that repeat a predefined sequence of actions thousands of times very quickly offers us great possibilities. In this lesson, I'll introduce the while loop as the most basic type of repetition control flow structure in Python. I'll also use this lesson to define the concept of an algorithm, which will stay with us throughout the remainder of the course, together with some preliminary algorithmic design guidelines using flowcharts. Let's get started. In Python, it's possible to group multiple statements and repeat their execution until a specific condition is met. A region of code in a program that repeats its execution in a cyclic manner is called a loop. And every pass the program makes through that region of code is called an iteration. One of the looping structures supported in Python is the while loop. This is the general syntax for a while loop. Keyword while, followed by a condition, a colon character, then one or more indented statements. Python executes the sequence of statements in the body of the while loop for as long as the Boolean expression given in the condition is true. Notice that this condition is evaluated at the beginning of every iteration of the loop, including the very first iteration. This means that if that condition is false before the loop starts, the indented statements won't execute at all. If that same condition is true for the first two times and false the third time, the sequence of indented statements would execute exactly twice. Let's look at an example. This program initializes variable counter to a value of 3, and then a loop begins running for as long as variable counter has a value greater than 0. In each iteration of the loop, we print the value of the counter and decrement it by 1. Once the loop exits, the program prints Go on the console. Can you figure out what the exact output of this program is when executed? Pause the video for a second now and try to answer this question. And I'm gonna tell you, this program is basically running a countdown that will print 3, 2, 1, go. Notice that value 0 will never be printed because the body of the loop will stop executing if counter is no longer greater than 0. Let's look at a more detailed execution trace of this program in action, one line of code at a time. As the code runs, I'll keep track of the current value of variable counter as well as each line of output printed into the terminal. The program starts at line 1, where it initializes the counter to a value of 3. In line 2, it checks whether the counter is greater than 0, which it is, so it enters the loop. Line 3 prints the current value of the counter, which is 3, and line 4 decrements it, setting its new value to 2. Since this is the last indented line under the while loop header, Python knows it should now go back to line 2. The condition is checked again. The counter is 2, which is greater than 0, so we stay in the loop. Line 3 prints the counter, and line 4 decrements it again, setting its new value to 1. And back to line 2. The condition is checked. The counter is now 1, which is greater than 0. We stay in the loop. Line 3 prints the counter, and line 4 decrements it again, now setting it to 0. And back to line 2. Now look, the counter is 0, so condition counter greater than 0 is no longer true. Python then decides it's time to exit the loop and jumps to line 5, which is the first non-indented line after the while loop header. This line prints message go, and the program ends. 3, 2, 1, go. That's the final output, as we concluded earlier. As you can see, a while loop allows us to repeat sequences of statements an arbitrary number of times. Even a small program comprised of just a few lines of code can be instructed to perform long, complex tasks if they're formed of smaller, repetitive actions. Pretty cool, huh? Let's explore this idea further and see where it takes us. If you enjoyed this content, you may watch the rest of this lesson at computersciencecamp.com, linked in the description below. You'll be able to follow along with coding samples and problems in our embedded code editor. Drop your questions in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to help support the channel. Thank you and happy coding!